Welcome to Sophisticated Emotional Technology, a look into the ideas of outsider artist February Montaine. I'm your host, Sam Potter, best-spelling author of ecstatic datasets and head archivist for February Montaine. Today's episode is all about using sound to investigate reality. Let's hear the big man's words himself from his stepdaughter Susie. Over to you, Susie.
Hi, my name is Susie Sleeps, and February Montaine used to date my mum. These are some ideas from my stepfather from the past, talking about the future and about the power of now. Tesla once wrote, "Our entire biological system, the brain, the earth itself, work on the same frequencies, and with this in mind, it makes you wonder what we could turn into music. If our known world shares a common mathematics, we can surely turn those geometries into sound. If we can turn our observed reality into sound, then we can use music as a far-reaching instrument for potentially life-affirming discovery. Take any value and transpose it into a frequency, and anything can be translated into sound. What other sense takes us to those hard-to-get places where the heart beats a little faster, and the tiny hairs stand on end and remind us who we are? If we can make instruments out of the information that describes an object, a movement, or a relationship, we can make a musical instrument out of it. Hell, we can make an instrument out of the whole universe with enough time. How would it feel to play the skies that have sang only at half tilt for all this time above us, or the landscapes that roll around us, so seemingly separate until now? How would it feel to play the synapses that fire in my brain as I write this, or the flush of neurochemicals released when I embrace my loved ones? Can you imagine the mathematician playing the same equation that had played with them for so long? Suddenly they are able to experience these numbers with a sense that lays closer to their less rational, more emotional self. As a layperson, I might not understand what may be happening mathematically, but still there may be some inherent beauty the mathematicians always knew, but suddenly we may too. As an amateur musician, I could make music from black holes and pheromones, my own expression being pushed and pulled in surprising new directions. Throw in Amelia and all of a sudden we have a multi-dimensional love song. We all have a feeling of some beautiful constant tying the universe together, but we are too dependent on sight alone to look for it. I feel its presence rarely with my eyes, but I feel it in the vibrations of my giddiness. Oneness through sound is tantalizingly close. We just need to bring it into the human auditory range. Thank you.
Moving through college, I started to use sound as an extension for the process of how I came to understand the world. And I feel like that is at the core, the essence of what sonification is, at its best. It becomes very fluid, and it just speaks to, we are fueling our curiosity through the sonic realm, and that our magnifying glass becomes a stethoscope, right? And so when questions arise, we're using the faculties of our ears to answer them, and then that guides the next level of our investigation. And so, like with listening to the sun, and at first it can sound like this big crackle, but when you start to filter it and apply the tools like a DJ might use, like a filter, or even just grabbing the turntable and slowing it down, then you start to reveal these new features, and it becomes this really interactive dialogue. So to sort of go back to that, question about the biological, I feel like, at our very essence, we think of ourselves as these exquisitely bound beings, these kind of like sacks of meat moving through space. We've got this spaceship and the eyes are up here and the legs are down there, but there are no physical systems that aren't intricately interwoven. If the trees weren't producing the oxygen, how long could we really breathe? And I feel like the more I've progressed in my life, the more I've really felt and understood that in an embodied way. And then when you start to think about, well, what is sound and what is the nature of sound, you can start to do some really interesting things, like even starting to listen to your emotions as they arise. and a kind of deep listening. I know there's a number of different scholars who've talked about this kind of deep listening, but yeah, it's a fascination on my end.
Yeah, so you've took that into your own work as well with your Breathscape app. Would you like to say a few words about Breathscape?
Absolutely. So with Breathscape, I mean, if you have a question of like, could music be as easy as breathing? Then I feel like with Breathscape, we've provided exactly that, the ability for someone, if you're able to breathe, then the movement of your breath can be transformed into the sound of angelic voices, wind chimes, wind blowing through the trees, crashing ocean waves. And when you think back to a lot of the original Buddhist text and like Buddha's original meditation, it's a act of following the breath with your awareness and your attention. And so what we're imparting is this kind of sonic loop whereby the listener's attention is always brought back to their breath in a way that we want to feel really effortless and just yummy, that invites you in a way where you're always wanting to hear the next thing. It's generative in a way where it's always providing something new. As one element of the sound is leaving, there's always a new element of the sound coming in. And so in that way, it just provides this constantly evolving and expanding experience of your own breath that, I mean, I can like speak from testimonials of my own personal experience, but for me, I mean, this stuff, it's, I used the word fascination before, but it feels so much deeper than that, and that it feels like urgent and necessary.
It's delightfully easy and it's delightfully effective. You just to kind of like talk about what happens when you use it. You're putting your phone on your belly. It's my belly here, like that. But you're lying down, and your phone is on your belly. You have your headphones in, and then the accelerometer on the phone is picking up your belly going up, your belly going down. So it's picking up the rhythms of your breathing, and through there, it's the pace of this which is dictating what's coming in. It's what's coming out. Like you says, it's bringing in these other cues. It's generative music. So whatever the good man Robert Alexander over here has put in there, you're embodying it. You're controlling it, and you're listening to it not just with your ears but with your whole body. And it's just dead easy to relax to. It's dead easy. It's great. Go check it out.
And so it's so fascinating to see how the app is weaving into various people's lives. And one functionality that Ben Collins, our CTO, actually just integrated, but I'd really like to see how people play with, is when you go into settings, there's a little toggle for enabling MIDI. And then on your computer, you can just go into the audio MIDI devices and then just add your phone. And then you can stream the breath wave from the phone to your computer. So you can use it to control Ableton, you can use it to control Max.
Man,
You can
that's
then,
the
yeah, you
holy
can,
fucking grail. That's insane.
yeah.
Great. That,
So I'm
wow.
super interested
Okay.
to see how
Have
people,
you
and it's yeah.
give me. Like,
Yeah, and when you look at it, it's really unassuming, it just it's like MIDI enabled, and there's a little question mark that just kind of says this is a like early functioning, kind of use it for whatever you want. But I don't really know if many people are gonna jump onto this, but I would really love to see what kind of creative stuff people
I
come up
think
with.
that for me, because I met you, Robert, at Kelly's house over there, and there was a point where we were kind of playing around, and I says I'd write a science fiction business plan for you, and we sat on the porch, and I asked these very kind of deep diving questions to get like a very kind of psychographic image of who you are as a person, who your product is, where it could go. And like, well, one of the big things for me is like, it's such an easy way of getting involved in the music that it's kind of cheating. Like you could have any music, And because you're breathing through it and you're kind of controlling it, it just gives you this instant response. Like it's like an empathy machine in a way. It's kind of bringing these things closer. So to be able to use that and to play like John Luther Adams through it, or like some Aphex Twin or something, that's really, really, really cool. I mean, there's another thing. Do
Yeah.
you still have the solar flare sonification on this version?
Yes, music from the sun is the second experience in the app, and we actually got a really high resolution video of the SDO, Solar Dynamics Observatory. So when you scroll over to that experience, you get a high res visual of the sun rotating. And I mean, you know, I kind of geek out about that because it's just really nice to see that footage right there in high res inside of the app. And then when you swipe into the experience, the first data that you hear is this cloud of voices that starts to emerge, and then the balance between those voices, that there's kind of like a low choir and a middle choir and a high choir, and the balance between them is controlled by the charged state of carbon as it goes up and down, which is an indicator of solar temperature. And then your breath is controlling this band-patched noise, so it's creating this kind of whooshing sound. In the original sonification, that whooshing sound was created by the velocity of helium. And so certain elements of that original sonification have been unplugged and connected to the breath, but other elements are still driven by that solar wind's data stream. And so it ends up becoming a kind of duet between the breath and the sun.
Like if there's a way of us forming empathy with the outside world through sonifications and through biofeedbacks, like the breath thing, like if you've done it with the sun, could you do it with like a whole forest floor, like with how a tree talks to like the mycelium, and the mycelium speaking to the lichen, and the birds and the bugs? Like is there a way of using these kind of techniques to give that extra layer of empathy that's sometimes lacking in this world?
And in the question you said you, and I think you meant that in the royal sense, as in can we? And that's where I get particularly excited, is in thinking about how various researchers might change the way that they think about the science that they're doing based off of asking questions in a different way. And there are people out there, a group of friends in California, who are working with the sonification of plants and things of this nature. And you know, once you start to,
by the way, sorry,
it was right there on the tip of my tongue, but when you start to scratch beneath the surface of the world of sonification, you start to get a sense for some things that different people have tried. But what's truly exciting about it is that it still is such a blank canvas. And this is one thing that got me particularly excited about entering into this world, is that there's so many things that just haven't been tried, and there's no right or wrong. And so even if someone has created a sonification, you know, like I've done with the solar wind, that's just an example, and it's still wide open in terms of the possibilities of what we can listen to and what we can discover. Even when you think specifically about audification, which is a type of sonification, it means that we're listening directly to the data. So then the solar wind gets really noisy and grumbly and growly. You know, even then, there are different ways of listening. You can listen at different speeds. You can filter out different things and listen to different parts. So it's such a creative act inherently. And I feel like, you know, when people ask kind of questions about, you know, sonification, it feels really just like the equivalent of looking at a blank canvas and saying, well, what can you do? And for me, it's so exciting in terms of where we can go in the coming years. And on the NASA side, one thing that's particularly cool is that we just released some audification code that takes all of the NASA data missions that are up on CEDAWeb, which is the data repository, and makes them downloadable as audio files. So CDAWEB, CEDAWeb, NASA's repository, you can go in, and when you find a mission, usually it just gives you like CSV download or image download or something like that. But now there's an option at the bottom, and you can click and just say download as audio files. You can essentially listen to any NASA mission that's been gathering data out there in time series format, and just push play and listen. So it's like a dusty record collection just waiting to be poured over. It's right there.
full of hits from
Yeah.
out of space. Looks very sunny there. You can see the sun.
Absolutely.
Are your eardrums just really tanned? And sometimes you have to apply suntan lotion just because you're constantly listening to it so much.
How did you know that I have to do that? That's quite amazing. Yeah.
You've got those little.
I go through bottles.
Yeah.
I go through bottles with suntan lotion every day. My headphones are covered.
They're not even headphones. They're just to block the sun. They're your ear bikinis.
Wishing you health, and that this is a time of creativity for you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Robert. Yeah. Oh. That was nice, wasn't it? Let's go in there. Have a look around. What's this? Shit, this sounds like the same thing. This sounds like if you can turn any amount of data into sound, suddenly there could be a mathematician on the other side of the world who's been engaging with this problem, these same numbers, these same patterns all his life, and suddenly gets to experience them in a different way. that could be the thing that leads to the breakthrough. And it's just like a really beautiful thought to think we can apply different senses to our observations of reality, or in this case our experiences of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this, so this isn't a new idea. This is how Kepler discovered how the universe works. And so it's how he discovered the mathematics of planetary motion, just by thinking about it as music. And he wasn't even actually listening to it. He wasn't listening to sound, but he was thinking about the information as harmonic information, as if it were musical. And if just that could cause such a breakthrough in science, that he literally started a whole new field. You know, he was one of the fathers of modern astronomy. And so just that, this idea that sound and music and our brains and nature are all wired so similarly that there could be this kind of resonance in our ability to recognize truth. Why aren't we using it as a tool? Why aren't we using it like this? Why aren't we using it to explore reality the way that we, you think about a scientist, or you think about trying to solve a problem, and you think about sitting and staring at it. Like, at least I do, I've been staring at this for days, or I've been thinking about this for days, or I've been staring at this equation, or I've been looking at these numbers, or I've been looking at this graph, or, and you think about that in terms of trying to absorb something visually, or just think about it, but with a visual paradigm. And even just switching that paradigm from a visual paradigm to a musical one for Kepler opened up a whole new dimension of thinking in mathematics and astronomy. And this is so exciting to me. And I know that there must be so much available to us when we are not only able to so it's not just by listening instead of by seeing. I think probably the most powerful is just having information come into our brains and our faculties through as many senses as possible at once. So whatever senses we have available to us, if we are able to see, and if we're able to hear, if we're able to feel, as many of those as possible at once.
Could you smell the truth? Could you use?
I mean, you do, right? Like you when you're moving through the world, whatever senses you've been blessed with, you use them all together all the time, pretty much, unless you're deliberately turning one off. But I think eventually it would be amazing if we could encode information in everything, in every sense, in every perceptive whole, if you will. But like, just the idea. So the first idea is just an immersion and being able to use multiple senses together. But then the second is to actually have agency in that immersion. So not having someone else, for example, just show you a plot or play you a sonification, but rather have the visualization and the sonification available to you to then explore using your own senses and your own sensibilities. And I think that agency is where the real exciting power is in our individual and collective exploration of truth.
And this is what Kepler Concordia is.
Yeah, that's right. So my goal is to create a platform that allows people to create instruments for other people to explore information and truth and reality through as many different senses as possible. It'd be so cool someday if Concordia had smelled the smell added into its immersion. But for now, it's mainly just visuals and on audio, music and video, as immersive as possible, but also as modular as possible, so that if people, that anyone can access it. So I don't want it to be this thing that only super rich people or people with certain kinds of hardware interfaces can access. I wanted to create something that as much as possible gives anyone who wants it agency to experience what it's like to be immersed in information and to be able to learn while playing music.
So when I went on this artist residency at Kelly's last year with some really wonderful people, and I'd be kind of sat at the bar and someone would be like, "Hey, where's your accent from?" And I say England, and they say, "What are you doing here?" They're like, "Yeah, just making a musical instrument that plays the universe." And then they'd be like, "Right, what's this?" And then the first question is like, "So what does it sound like?"
Yeah,
I
I
think
wish I knew. I
people
still don't know.
it's like a Douglas Adams thing or something. People just expect it to have a sound, where it's just like a bass level low hum or something like that. Or did you ever have it where you meditate and I think it's the thing where like your ears are cleaning themselves and you can hear this low level kind of buzzing. And it sounds a little bit like spaceships approaching each other in science fiction films. Or it sounds
Uh-huh.
like the world kind of like slowly churning or turning around. And I think people, when they hear this kind of technology, they just expect it. Or I think it's can't remember who said it, but they're like, it's obviously very mathematical and makes a lot of sense, so it will probably sound like ABBA. And I'm like, I think it will. But it's a lovely thought.
I don't know what it's going to sound like, but Sam, what I wish is that it existed right now, because right now what the world is longing for is to connect with each other, and that's really what it is designed for, like for people, a multiplayer instrument that's more than just a game, like where you're learning about your reality, like who you are, who other people are, how the world works, and all of this stuff, while like having this experience together. That's just what people are longing for now. And now that we can't be together in person, I just really wish that I would have had it built by now.
I think it's that thing is really, really exciting. Is like what we do need now is we need entertainment, but you read books, you watch films, you speak to friends. What you long for is like entertainment, but the step just beyond it. So the kind of entertainment that's teaching you something, or the kind of
Or connecting you to
leading into the
something.
world, or you're having these shared experiences, like what's the step beyond Minecraft or a world building game? It's kind of it's thinking about utopias together, so then you can use the answers to build something. Like what's the difference between me just playing on a keyboard? It's like me using a keyboard to navigate patterns that are found in the known universe, or like I think this is the thing. It would be wonderful right now. I mean, it exists in our imagination, exists in science papers you wrote. Maybe it can exist in some more people's imagination now. But it's a lovely thought anyway, Kelly. It will happen soon.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Well, it's happening now, actually. I feel like as soon as I get this one task outstanding done, then I'm gonna use this time really to start building it.
That's wonderful.
And I thought I was going to be building it in New Zealand, but I'm going to be building it in Portland for a while. Okay, and then later in New Zealand.
Portland. Okay. Well, let's go build some things now and make the world a better place, Kelly.
Okay, that sounds good, Sam.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye.